Chris Rivera has crossed many roadblocks with her 3-year-old daughter, Mia. She explains on wolfhorsion.org, the leading resource on the condition, on January 12, 2012, Mia has wolfhorsion, a rare chromosomal disorder that causes her severe developmental delays. But Mia's most difficult struggle has been getting a kidney. The Washington Post of January 17, 2012 explains that Mia needed a kidney within the next 6 to 12 months. But when Mia's parents met with doctors at the Philadelphia Children's Hospital to discuss the transplant, they were told that Mia could not be placed on the organ transplant waiting list because she was mentally retarded. The Examiner of January 14, 2012 continues, when Rivera asked the doctors if she should let her daughter die when her kidneys started failing, the doctor said yes. While Rivera's doctor's evaluation seems outrageous, current policy justifies it. The Journal of Pediatric Transplantation of 2009 explains, the majority of solid organ pediatric transplant programs consider neurodevelopmental status in their listing decisions, and most consider some degree of neurodevelopmental delay a barrier to the organ transplant waiting list. A scarcity of organs makes rationing an inherent part of the organ donation system. However, considering the previously cited Journal of Transplantation explains over a third of transplant programs surveyed had denied a patient access to the waiting list based solely on mental ability, we must end this discrimination. By examining the causes behind these discriminatory policies, understanding the harms they create for those with mental disabilities, and proposing solutions to end these practices, we will act as a voice for those who cannot defend their own rights. And because many of us are proud to call ourselves organ donors, but the system but many with mental disabilities aren't even given the chance to be considered for our gifts. Since 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act has prohibited the discrimination of people with disability with regard to access to health care. Yet, our hospitals continue to victimize those with disabilities for two main reasons: outdated ideas about disability health care, quality of life judgmentalism. First, we follow outdated, do-nothing medical advice, assuming the lives of those with mental disabilities cannot be improved. The Minnesota Governor's Council on Disabilities in June 2004 explains, we have progressed from automatic exclusion in the 1990s to a system of selective inclusion. However, Mia's case illustrates how little progress has actually been made. Psychosomatics of March-April 2012 notes, mental disabilities are still incorrectly considered a barrier to effective heart transplants. Moreover, many doctors cite survivability as a serious issue. The 2010 Journal of Transplantation notes survival rates are similar between those with and without mental disabilities. While medicine has advanced a great deal, our outdated ideas are dictating who lives and who dies. Second, the United Network for Organ Sharing, or UNOS, the nonprofit which manages the organ transplant waiting list, supports quality of life judgmentalism. Lee Cadis, liaison for the Ethics Committee, explained in a personal email correspondence on January 30th, 2013, the most recent policy on organ transplants and disability was passed in 2007 and asserts patients with disabilities should be considered for transplants. While this seems promising, the 2007 meeting minutes reveal the intentional removal of the phrase eligibility for transplantation predicated on determinations of social worth is morally unjustified, essentially giving doctors the license to continue to make decisions about organ recipients based on stereotypical and outdated ideas of quality of life, which stem from the 1969 court case Strunk v. Strunk. Strunk v. Strunk stipulated those with mental disabilities, even those who lack the intellectual capacity to consent, can donate organs during their lifetime. Ironically, hospitals are happy to take the organs of those with mental disabilities, but are much more reluctant to give them organs, because in the medical field, their lives aren't as valuable. The New York Daily News of August 16, 2012 tells the story of Paul Corby, an able-bodied and high-functioning 23-year-old who was denied a heart on the grounds of his autism. Paul's story illustrates how the lack of doctors' subjective decisions, the lack of a national standard, exacerbates harms for those with disabilities. First, the organs are scarce, leaving doctors making subjective decisions. The Hastings Center, a nonpartisan research institution dedicated to bioethics, explains on their website, copyright 2013, there are over 100,000 people on the organ transplant waiting list in the United States, and 12 of them die each day waiting. Because of this shortage, explains a blogger for the Chronicle of Higher Education on January 20, 2012, doctors are forced to remove patients from the list. And theoretically, this subjective process is meant to ensure that patients whose lives would be most improved by an organ are receiving them. However, it also often results in those with mental disabilities being removed from the list, because as the Journal of Pediatric Annals in May 2012 explains, the system allows unintentional bias to impact clinicians' decisions. Second, there are no uniform criterion to be placed on the organ transplant waiting list. UNOS explains that there is a single national list of people waiting for organs, yet each hospital has its own criteria for placing individuals on the list. Dr. Michael Shapiro, Chief of Organ Transplantation at Hackensack University Medical Center, puts it bluntly. Whether a patient receives a life-saving organ is a transplant center by transplant center decision. For example, the Boston Globe of December 9, 2012 details the story of 14-year-old Robert, who was forced to visit 8 different hospitals across the country before he found a doctor willing to perform his heart and kidney transplant. These situations are exacerbated for people with disabilities. Considering the previously cited Journal of Pediatrics notes, 43% of centers consider mental disabilities when making transplant decisions. The Hippocratic oath that all doctors take before practicing medicine, they promise to work for the benefit of the sick, and to remain free of all intentional injustice. The denying of organs to those with mental disabilities is an unthinkable injustice, committed in our hospitals, making it our duty to act. First, on the institutional level, Dr. Stephen Rice, professor of psychology at Ohio State University, explains in a personal email correspondence of January 17, 2013, the best way to change these discriminatory standards is through the UNOS Pediatrics Committee. The policies and standards that are proposed by the UNOS Ethics and Pediatrics Committee govern hospital transplant standards. If hospitals fail to comply with these standards, they lose the ability to perform transplants. Therefore, these committees must work together to propose policies that eliminate mental disability as a disqualifier. A critical first step is the inclusion of the phrase, eligibility for transplantation predicated on determinations of social worth is morally unjustified, which was omitted from the original proposal on organ transplants for those with disabilities. This would force doctors to either eliminate quality of life judgmentalism or lose the ability to make decisions at all. Until the UNOS Ethics and Pediatrics Committee Act, we must protect some of society's most vulnerable individuals. Become an organ donor and encourage others to do the same. To start the process, visit organdonor.gov and click Becoming a Donor. This will help to alleviate the scarcity of organs which causes quality of life judgmentalism. However, we also need to make this hidden discrimination known to the public. Public outrage surrounding Mia Rivera's case caused doctors to re-evaluate their decision. Consequently, Mia received a kidney. To continue this conversation, I urge you to take one of the stickers I'll have available at the end of the round and place it on your driver's license or another form of ID. A Minnesota State Trooper told me on October 30th, 2012, this wouldn't result in a citation, but would start a conversation. When someone asks you why you have a green dot on your driver's license, explain you support organs for everyone, regardless of mental ability. Our driver's licenses have long been used to identify us as organ donors. It's time they identify us as organ donors for all people. Doctors in the American healthcare system promise to protect and treat all people without bias. Until they do, we must continue to fight for the rights of those our medical system has systematically silenced. Because it's time our hospitals stop viewing mental disability as a death sentence.